God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations in all of our hearts be pleasing in your sight. Amen. So the prevailing mood for this second Sunday of Advent is about quiet, silence. We've lit the second Advent candle, the candle of peace, and peace and quiet, they nest comfortably together. And we're looking at this second verse of the Christmas carol, "What Child Is This?" And it's a lovely bucolic scene. We've got the ox and the donkey, they're quietly eating hay. The Christ child is asleep, maybe wakes to nurse. It's meant to be this peaceful scene. And then we're asked to hear this phrase, "The silent word is pleading." The silent word. How can a word be silent? Isn't the point of a word that it's a sound that corresponds with a meaning so that we can talk to each other and understand each other? That's what words are. You know, happy, sad, tasty, poisonous, tiny, ginormous. Words, they help us navigate life. I love words. I love exploring their meaning. The word word means utterance, speech. In Greek, it's logos. And logos is more than just a word on a piece of paper. Logos is the source of all words, the structure of the universe, the way things hang together kind of word, logos, as in the beginning of John's Gospel that we read on Christmas Eve. In the beginning was the word, logos. And it says the word was with God, and the word was God. That's a lot to ask of a word. God speaks words, and Genesis tells us that there was light. Land divides from water. Word creates. So what does it mean that the silent word is pleading? It's kind of a poetic shock to those of us who are wordophiles. That's now a word too. But it says we need silence to draw near to holiness. If we can't be silent, then words become just a jumble. How are you with being silent? I took a meditation class about 2 years ago, and I started with 5 minutes, 10, 20. I worked all the way up to 30 minutes a day of this quiet contemplation. And most days, those were some of the best minutes spent all day. But I got out of the habit. And for Advent, I thought I would start again, and I set my little timer for about 15 minutes because I thought, I used to do a half an hour. This should be easy, right? My brain managed to pack so many thoughts into 900 seconds. Things to add to my to-do list. Sermon ideas created, then discarded. Netflix shows I had watched the night before. Things that made me angry on the news. Maybe I shouldn't eat so much. If you had commanded me to have as many thoughts as possible in 900 seconds, I could not have created more thoughts than I did. My brain was so noisy, I'm surprised you can't hear me thinking as I'm walking around. I longed for a silent word pleading. Advent, it teaches us to wait, to listen, to soften the noise inside. And no one embodies this lesson more than Zechariah, for he enters the story with words and exits the story unable to speak, silenced. When he steps into the temple, he has been assigned the holiest of work for a priest. He had been chosen by lottery to light the incense in the temple for the holy day. And this, you only get to do this once in your whole life. He had a 1 in 600 chance of even being selected to do this. Most priests never got the opportunity to go inside the holiest part of the temple and light the incense. And everything had to be very carefully prepared. He went through a week of cleansing rituals and baths and avoiding things that were impure. And when he comes in, so the incense had been prepared, it had a secret formula that only one small group of priests even knew about, and they took the most rarest of perfumes and blended them together, and they believed that this was pleasing to God to have this mix. And when he came in, there would be 12 loaves of bread on one side that symbolized the 12 tribes of Israel and God providing daily bread. And on the other would be the great golden menorah that was the perpetual flame that had to be kept lit and tended to at all times. So here he is, he's engaging in this very sacred thing alone in this holiest place of the temple, and the angel Gabriel shows up. We don't expect that to happen in church, right? And Gabriel comes, and Zechariah's reaction is fear. This isn't supposed to happen. It's interrupting his holy moment, his once-in-a-lifetime experience as a priest. But Gabriel's going to deliver this good news. A child is being born to you and to Elizabeth. Your prayers have been heard, and this child will prepare the way for the Messiah. And Zechariah is still kind of reeling. How can this be? How can it be true? You're going to have to give me some kind of sign. Like, I don't know, a burning bush? Touch my lips with a hot coal? I want to see the stairway to heaven, something? And the sign the angel gives is, you will not be able to speak. You will be silent until your wife gives birth. Wow. Almost sounds like a punishment. But silence can be a gift. It's a powerful gift. Silence helps us understand things that words can't explain. You know, when we try to talk about God, all the words we use are just approximate. The presence of God is more than we can speak. And so sometimes we have to encounter a silent word pleading. Years ago, I took a 3-day silent retreat in a Benedictine monastery. No phones, no computers, no iPods, books on tape, podcasts, nothing. At orientation, they even urged us not to read books, but only to read a few scriptures to contemplate. You could go out, you could walk around their lovely grounds, you could sit in the chapel, you could go to your room and rest, all of these things, but no talking for 3 days. And this meant meal times too, and we ate our meals together in common in a small cafeteria. So we weren't very far apart, and it's so hard to walk into a room of people to have a meal and not say, "Good morning." You could tell who the brothers and sisters were because they had mastered the art of a pleasant greeting with just a smile and a nod and then move on. And the rest of us were more uncomfortable with this. And so we're sitting so close and quiet, and you can hear every spoon clink against the china as people stir, the loud chewers, the noisy shifters. So here we are, there's no conversation, there's no newspaper or TV on in the corner. You had nothing else to do but sit and eat. Just eat. I ate that first meal so fast so I could get out there and begin my day of silence. I soon realized there was no hurry to have breakfast because eating is at least something to do if you're on silent retreat. So enjoy it. So the next meal I tried to linger a bit and taste, and they had this vegetable stew. And all of the herbs and the vegetables were from their gardens, and I realized, oh, the rosemary and the thyme fit so well with carrots and potatoes and peas and a little garlic. It was so good, and there was fresh bread, and I began to notice the companions that were in the room with me, many of them brothers and sisters. And I wondered how they spent their day. I guess they'd been out in the gardens weeding and watering. It was their labor, their work, their hands that had brought this meal to us. I looked around and I thought, I wonder which one got up early to bake the bread. And who is it that has the skill to make this gorgeous, flaky pie crust? So I'm beginning to notice others. You could kind of tell who wasn't a brother or sister because we were a little bit more anxious. There was a woman to my left who she kind of ate with annoyance. You know, she was huffing and sighing a lot. And there was a man over to my right. This guy looked so sad. I mean, there was a moment I thought he was going to drown himself in his stew. And the brothers and the sisters are around us. And I could almost feel their presence. They created a space and an opening for us just through their silence and the way that they were in the room. I wonder, do they come and are they praying for us? Or are they just savoring the moment mindfully, which is also a kind of prayer? But I felt in that space that their silence did more than words. That just by the way they were helping us put our hearts right again. By creating the space, by showing us the way that we could be in these moments. And I could see the changes come over us. The huffy woman over on the side. The sun had moved and she was in a sunspot. And she finally noticed and turned her face and just felt the warmth on her cheek, and she stopped huffing and sighing. The sad man had seemed to have forgot his plan of death by stew. And I noticed he was pulling the little slices of apple one by one out of his pie and eating them. And then he was saving the crust for last. I thought, he's going to be okay, isn't he? I learned all these things about my companions without a word. If we had been allowed to speak, I wonder if I would have known less about them. Because you know how it is. What do you do for a living? Have you been here before? Commenting on the food that we weren't really tasting. It's so easy to hide ourselves in words. When we're talking, we act like we're sharing, but are we really talking about what's most important to our hearts? When the retreat ended, there was a new group of people, and they were checking into the lobby, and they just seemed so noisy and chatty. You know, they're barging in. Where are you from? Have you taken a retreat before? This is my first silent retreat. No kidding, I never would have guessed. It was jarring to come into such a wordy world. And it doesn't take long to be buried in words again, emails to answer, tapping away on my keyboard, producing sermons and memos and phone calls and headlines and advertisements. I love words, but they can be so exhausting. More and more words do not make me wiser or happy. So I keep returning to the lessons of that silent retreat. Whenever God feels distant, whenever I feel disconnected, I realize I need to find a way to return to solitude, a place where I can encounter the silent word pleading. Advent begins and leads us not with noise, not with certainty, but a silence that pleads for our attention. Like Zechariah learned to hear God again, not through more words, but the absence of them. Think of the Christ child, the incarnate Word, comes to us wordless. And when Christmas comes, it's a good 6 months before he's going to start saying things and forming words. He is the small, quiet presence that speaks of the deepest truth of God's love before he can speak. So as we come to the communion table today, I invite you to a holy quietness, a pause, a breath, space for the silent word to plead within your heart. And perhaps this week you could find a time of day, even if it's a minute or two, to walk, to be silent, listen to whatever is present to you. Let the noise drain away. Listen for the God who comes as a still, small voice. For in the silence, a word is pleading for you, for healing, for peace, for a world as God desires it to be. Amen.